I think that is going to be a thing of the past too. I think technology is going to bring us to a point where we're going to be able to telepathically exchange ideas, and it's going to be thought-based. It's not going to be based on language. And the problem with language, of course, you have objectionable words that are used out of context, words that you see in print. You're lacking the sarcastic tone that the person said it in. So you read it, you could reinterpret it as being a serious statement. There's a lot of weird stuff with language because what we're really trying to do is communicate. Yeah. It's a crude form of communication that only exists because telepathy is not good.
You feel that we're going to one day be able to our conversation will just be, we're looking at each other in the eyes.
Yeah, I think so.
What would be the material means by which that gets instantiated? How would we do that?
Well, I think initially it'd be technology, but what I think is it's an emerging aspect of human consciousness anyway.
Right.
I think we're getting better at it. I think ironically, the thing that keeps us from it is technology. Because what is the worst way to communicate with someone where you're not exactly sure what they're saying is text.
Right.
Like people misinterpret things in text messages all the time where one person is joking and the other person takes them seriously, or one person doesn't understand that this person doesn't know about something else and they wrote something.
So there is, and I may have mentioned this before on the show, I can't remember, there is something to what you're saying, not quite telepathically, but so brain imaging. fMRI, right?
Yeah.
So in fMRI, I put you through the machine and I'm able to look at which areas of your brain are getting more activated, either through blood flow or oxygenation or whatever, right? So if I'm studying the psychology of fear-based appeals or advertising, well, I expect your amygdala to light up more because that's an emotional center where you expect fear to be processed, right?
Got it.
So there is some researchers, I think out of UCLA, that took, I can't remember if it's like a sentence. So let's say 8 different sentences. So I'm getting the methodology wrong, but the general idea is valid. And based on the activation pattern that they see, they're able to tell you which sentence would have been said by looking at the brain image.
Whoa.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because each of those enunciated sentences or things that I thought about will necessitate a different invoking of a particular region in my brain, right? And therefore, so I can't be to the point where I'm able to read your mind in the way that if you and I were having a telepathic conversation would happen, but at least I'm able to know if you just thought about something fearful or you thought about a house, and so now they're already doing that.
So I think the analogy would be like, this is the first grunts that ancient man developed to recognize particular things and to point out things before they developed a written language that was eloquent like Thomas Jefferson.
Right. And yes.
Right. Yeah. Like as it advances.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I've written 2 papers, academic papers on the brain imaging paradigm. And I used a term that I first learned of from my doctoral professor. I did one of my minors in my PhD was cognitive studies of the brain, and his name is Frank Kyle. He's now a professor at Yale University. He called it the illusion of explanatory profundity. He was applying it to something else, but I applied it to brain imaging. Let me explain what I mean by that. There are studies that show that if you take the exact same paper, and in one version you actually put an image of a brain imaging thing, and in the other version of the paper you don't do that, and you ask people to judge, it's the exact same paper,
right?
But you put the one with the image, people go, ooh, this one is more scientific. Right?
Right, of course.
Packaging matters because it just showing the brain, which looks cool and sciencey with all kinds of activation pattern, is sciencey.
Right.
This other paper, which is exactly the same paper, doesn't have it. It's not as sciencey. So hence, illusion of explanatory profundity. You're thinking that you're explaining something very profound, but it really is, you don't know what the hell you're talking about. So I think brain imaging so far has been very powerful as a diagnostic tool because you could see things in vivo. You could actually see certain things that before you had to do an invasive surgery to see. But to be able to fully, like now there are neuromarketing firms that sell you based on the activation patterns of your consumers, we can help you design better marketing campaigns. Bullshit.
Right. So they're over exaggerating the
Exactly.
capabilities.
Exactly.
This is a problem when Luddites sort of interpret what science is capable of and then try it based on that.
Exactly.
Do you know the story of, I think it was in India, there was a woman who was convicted of murder because through fMRI, with functional magnetic resonance imagery, she had a functional memory of the crime somehow or another. And the problem I talked to neuroscientists about that, and they said the problem is, like, she could have had that memory based on the evidence that was given to her when she was being tried. You would imagine that would have a profound effect. If someone told you that you're being tried for murder and they showed you photos of the crime scene, you might develop a functional memory of this crime scene. We're trying to think, like, who the fuck did this? Why am I being blamed? It doesn't, and we don't really have the capability of it. Another one is there was these Italian scientists that were actually tried and convicted because they were liable of not telling people about an earthquake that took place, because the people that were trying them did not understand that the science involved in predicting earthquakes is not exact. It's not like, I know an earthquake's going to happen Tuesday at noon, or I know an earthquake is definitely even going to happen.
Right.
You don't know. It's just, and because the fact that these people who didn't understand the science were trying them, they wanted to pretend that these people were responsible for not alerting all these, and they were I think they tried them for manslaughter, and they were convicted, and I think they won on appeal.
Wow.
Yeah, see if you can find that story.
That's interesting.
It's a crazy story because actual people who are geologists are like, what the fuck are you doing? Yeah, 7-year legal saga ends as Italian official is cleared of manslaughter in earthquake trial. Verdict follows conviction of deputy for advice given ahead of L'Aquila earthquake.
Wow.
Yeah,
Incredible.
crazy.
Incredible.
Crazy, because you have a bunch of assholes that say, you should have known, we're going to take you to court. And like, hey, you fucking idiot, you don't even know how this technology works. And they don't have to know.
Well, even on a much more basic level, eyewitness testimony has been shown to be